You want to take pictures? Yay!
That's scientists, engineers, and allies. Good evening. Welcome to the 41st Annual Philippine American Academy of Science and Engineering Meeting and Symposium.
We are actually Donnie and Marie.
Yes. Before anything else, we would like to request you to please stand up for the national anthems of the United States of America and of the Republic of the Philippines, to be led by Dr. Robert Harold Baritone.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Ayang mahiliw, kaya sa silanganan, alap ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupag hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupi, di ka pasisiil, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong bukaw, may ilat ang tula at awit sa paglaing minamahal, ang bisat ng wagaw at mo'y tagumpay na nagniningning, ang bituin at taraw niya kailan pa may magdidiling, lupa ng araw ng lalating pasinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya, dapat may mga api ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Thank you, Bob. Lulu, you got a good one.
I feed him well. I take the credit.
Good evening, scientists and engineers, students and professionals. Welcome to the 2021 Annual Philippine American Academy of Science and Engineering Meeting and Symposium. For those in the Philippines, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Good evening, Mario.
Good evening, Marie. Yes, good morning po sa mga nasa Pilipinas. We welcome everyone to this hybrid conference. There are about like 25 of us in this room and more than 100 participants online. Finally, it's happening, Leia. Remember, we were supposed to hold this last year, but then everyone knows COVID happened. But then last year's APAMS was highly successful. It was the first time that we did a purely online conference. It was for 3 or 4 weeks, right? A really long-running conference. As I have mentioned, we're trying this hybrid conference for the first time, where most of our plenary sessions involve presenters who are either here with us at the conference site or participating virtually.
That's right, Mario, or Donnie. It's a bit challenging to organize, but definitely doable as far as I can see, at least on the first night. It's immensely fulfilling as well. That's also because the theme of this year is celebrating the Filipino scientists and the 4 decades of PASE. During the 3 evenings and 3 mornings, we'll get to know our fellow scientists through their work and will be feted with a smorgasbord of cutting-edge knowledge in different areas of science and engineering. We will also pay homage to our founders, led by Dr. Severino Ko, who formed and incorporated PASE in 1980 in the state of Indiana. We are particularly grateful to the 21 founders, especially Joey Comiso, who is in attendance tonight. He's always in attendance. Thank you, Joey. Thank you also to Dr. Joe Cruz, Ed Padlan, Amador Muriel, and Francisco and Linda Bartolome, among others.
So for this APAMS, we have invited 3 eminent keynote speakers, 1 distinguished keynote lecturer, who's a Nobel Prize laureate in physics. We organized 5 panels, including those of the former winners of the Severino Co and Pasco Lectureship Award in Science and Engineering. Of course, we'll also have the current winners for this year, Dr. Kathleen Abiso of De La Salle University and Dr. Arnel Salvador of UP National Institute of Physics. In addition, we have 4 plenary talks and a roundtable discussion on charting the future of the Philippine science and technology innovation ecosystem for the next decade.
And don't forget the 13 parallel sessions composed of more than 60 individual presentations. Similar to regular conferences, after plenary session, our meeting participants will have a choice of which parallel sessions to attend, and they will all happen in separate Zoom rooms. So if you are interested in one particular parallel session, please check the schedule. The program is online, so you don't have to be bringing a heavy book because we have 60 abstracts. So please check the schedules of the book of abstracts that's in pase.org.
That is right. Actually, more than 60 abstracts, because those are just the parallel session abstracts. No?
We had one yesterday.
That's right. That's right. So before anything else, we would like to call on our distinguished president of PASE, Dr. Gisela Concepcion. Dr. Gisela Concepcion is an academician of the National Academy of Science and Technology, Professor Emerita at the Marine Science Institute in UP, former VP of Academic Affairs of the UP system, and has been the driving force of the many initiatives that of late were launched by PASE. She was our president in 2011, also in 2020, and was re-elected in 2021. So please welcome scientists, engineers, and allies, Dr. Gisela Padilla Concepcion.
Thank you, Mario and Leah. Greetings to all 41st APAMS speakers, special guests, benefactors, organizers, participants, fellows, and PASE officers, members, and partners. Special welcome to Deputy Chief of Mission Jaime Ramon Escalon of the Philippine Embassy in Washington, D.C., who is representing Ambassador Jose Manuel Romualdez. My dear old friends in PASE, I wish I was there with all of you, though truly I am there. And today, the spirit of oneness, of togetherness, of Filipinos all over the world is heightened with exhilarating news of the Nobel Prize for Peace bestowed on our courageous Filipino woman, Maria Ressa, who speaks and proclaims the truth. Let us pause and give Maria resounding applause. The celebration of PASA's 40th year of existence culminates in 41st APAMS. It is a homecoming to the home university of PASA's founder, Dr. Severino Co, whom we honor with gratitude today by featuring the work of outstanding Filipino scientists and recognizing PASA's S&T contributions through 4 decades. We are celebrating the Filipino scientist. We anticipate with great excitement the lectures of the 2021 Paz Severino and Paz Co awardees in science and engineering, and all scientific talks and panel discussions. We are also recognizing the meritorious service of some of our members, honoring some inspiring STEM teachers, and conferring a special Presidential Citation Award for outstanding S&T achievement. I am deeply grateful to the co-hosts of 41st APAMS, Dr. Leah Tolosa Croucher, former PASA Board Chair and President, and Vice President, President-elect Dr. Mario Santo Domingo, and all those who have worked selflessly for the excellent program and arrangements of 41st APAMS. I would like to acknowledge our donors and benefactors and thank our distinguished guests, Philippine Ambassador Romualdez, represented by Deputy Chief of Mission Ascalon, UMBC President Dr. Freeman Rabosky, 2014 Nobel laureate in Physics Shuji Nakamura, DOST Secretary Fortunato de la Peña, and others who graciously accepted our invitation to give keynote and plenary talks at this meeting. At 40 years old, life begins again for PASE and flourishes. We are experiencing a rebirth, re-energized with meaningful S&T conversations, which began at 40th APAMS and continues into 41st APAMS and is never ending in our PASA Google Group exchanges and weekly fireside chats and webinars. We are reinvigorated by the viewpoints of many more PASA members joining our ranks, coming from all age groups and from different parts of the Philippines and the world, with a broad range of expertise spanning the sciences and engineering that we can all be proud of. I wish all of us who are attending 41st APAMS live or online a scientifically enriching and engaging experience, and one that is pleasant and memorable. Let us make many more scientific, professional, and personal friends at 41st APAMS. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Giselle. And before we go to our keynote speaker for tonight, we would like to pause for a minute for those that we have lost this year, our PASA members we have lost this year, and also all the COVID victims, and the founders that we have lost in the past years. Thank you. Now for our invited keynote speaker for tonight, the Honorable Jose Manuel Romualdez will be represented by Deputy Chief of Mission Jaime Ramon Ascalon. Ambassador Romualdez is a Philippine Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary to the United States. As a top diplomat, he's the head of the Philippine Embassy in Washington, D.C. Ambassador Romualdez is concurrently the Philippines emissary to the Commonwealth of Jamaica, Republic of Haiti, Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Antigua, and Barbuda, Bahamas, Barbados, Dominica, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and St. Lucia. The ambassador stresses the importance of science diplomacy and was instrumental in the talks to secure vaccines, COVID vaccines for the Philippines. May we call on
Ambassador Romualdez will be represented by Deputy Chief of Mission Jaime Ramon Ascalon, who's a graduate in political science from UP Diliman. DCM Ascalon is called by many. When he was still a Deputy Consul General, received the Torchbearer Award for Public Service, awarded by the Philippine American Press Club, citing his contributions to improving the delivery of consular, ATN, and other services to our kababayans. Before joining the DFA, DCM Ascalon was a foreign affairs research specialist at the Center for International Relations and Strategic Studies at the Foreign Service Institute. And prior to his current position, he has been detailed from the Department of Foreign Affairs to the Office of the President as Deputy Chief of Presidential Protocol. At DFA, he served as Special Assistant at the Office of the Undersecretary for Policy and later as Principal Assistant. He then became the Acting Director at the Office of ASEAN Affairs. His first foreign assignment was in Brunei Darussalam, where he served as third secretary and vice consul, and subsequently as second secretary and consul. Scientists and engineers and allies, please welcome Deputy Chief of Mission Jaime Ramon Ascalon. Sorry.
Thank you for the kind introduction. Good evening and good morning, and maybe good afternoon if somebody is in somewhere. On behalf of Ambassador Jose Manuel G. Romualdez and the Philippine Embassy, it is my honor and pleasure to join you at tonight's event and symposium to celebrate the 41st founding anniversary of the Philippine American Academy of Science and Engineering, or PAASE. Special greetings to the PAASE President, Dr. Giselle Concepcion in Manila. It's indeed such an honor to be with such a very distinguished group. In fact, an honor, and it's really intimidating because of the PhDs that are overflowing in this room. I would also like to thank Dr. Leah Tolosa Croucher and Dr. Mariana Santo Domingo, the co-chairs of this event, for the kind invitation. The ambassador unfortunately cannot be with us today, but he sends his warm regards to everyone and congratulates PAASE for its achievements these past 41 years and the success of this symposium. Allow me also to congratulate PAASE for this milestone event celebrating 4 decades of unparalleled achievements in your scholarly and scientific programs and research and development initiatives, not just here in the United States, but also in the Philippines. Regardless where your contributions to society started, we know that the impact pays no heed to geographical borders and are global in scale. We are living in a time where technological advancements are fast progressing and have become so ingrained into our daily lives. Progress since 1979 has been made in great leaps and bounds. We have learned practically evolved to rely on the multitude of software, apps, and gadgets for our day-to-day needs, because how can we not? all the gadgets here. When PAASE was founded, do you know what was the coolest gadget then? So it's the forebear of Spotify, the Sony Walkman. But as one author said, if you build the ship, you build the shipwreck. So along with all the comfort, benefits, and options made available to us by technology comes the spread of false data, misinformation, and mistrust. Therefore, these challenging times reinforce the importance of science, a basic and general understanding of it, and trust on evidence-based research, especially in the world's current plight against the COVID-19 pandemic. The Philippines held the 51st position out of 132 economies in the 2021 Global Innovation Index, despite the challenges and financial constraints caused by the pandemic. In fact, the World Intellectual Property Organization emphasized that the country's 51st ranking puts the Philippines together with China, Turkey, Vietnam, and India as part of the group of only 5 countries which made significant progress in the GII innovation rankings over time. In the last 3 years, the innovation inputs or the investments for these activities in the Philippines remain low, ranking at 72 compared to 70 in 2020 and 76 in 2019. However, despite the low input, the ranking for innovation outputs or the resulting programs and technologies from such investments is rising, with the Philippines at rank 40 in 2021, a step higher from the 41st ranking in 2020. This reflects the efficient implementation of R&D programs that resulted in high outputs despite limited funding. The Philippines and the world will undoubtedly see rapid expansion of opportunities for productivity growth and emergence of new business models as well as new goods and services in the years to come. But the extent to which the potential benefits will be realized depends on the country's ability to adapt to the global disruptions that are expected to come along with the fourth industrial revolution. This adaptation will involve greater thoughtfulness and agility in the way society balances the benefits from disruptive technologies against the need for stability, security, and social cohesion. Moreover, the effectiveness of the adaptation will undoubtedly depend on the timeliness of its preparation and implementation. When the Philippine government launched the Ambisyon Natin 2040 back in 2015, which envisions that by 2040, Filipinos enjoy a strongly rooted, comfortable, and secure life, it anticipated that the global exponential growth of science and technology in today's time required a collective, yet also a sector-specific and even individualistic sense of technological creativity. Thus, the Harmonized National R&D Agenda, or HNRDA, was developed in consultation with stakeholders from the government and non-government sectors, comprising the academe, research and development institutes, and industry, among other concerned bodies. It is aligned with the Philippine Development Plan and approved by the National Economic Development Authority, or NEDA. The HNRDA 2017-2022 covers the following 5 sector areas of research. 1, health. 2, agriculture, aquatic, and natural resources. 3, industry, energy, and emerging technology. 4, disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation. And 5th, national integrated basic research. Smart systems, homes, factories, farms, grids, or cities are expected to tackle many problems, from supply chain management to climate change. At the same time, these technologies are expected to alter the patterns of consumption, production, and employment, which will require proactive adaptation by corporations, governments, and individuals. In a 2018 World Economic Forum report, the Philippines was considered a legacy country that has a strong production base, but which could face risks in the future due to weaker performance across drivers of production, which include technology and innovation, performance across human capital, global trade and investment, institutional framework, sustainable resources, and demand environment. Furthermore, the World Bank has always mentioned that the Philippines would highly depend on its access to foreign technology and ability to absorb these technologies on its own. As things stand, government or on our own could not have done what we have achieved so far. Private companies and organizations have been very helpful in the Philippines' preparation for the fourth industrial revolution. As a country with a very talented and young population, we place much emphasis on the fact that our country has a great potential for coping and positive change. We will continue to nurture and expand cooperation with the private sector. With the right investments, training, and direction, we have no doubt that a lifelong learning system can be built through a whole of government and whole of nation approach. This is why we welcome and are excited about the Philippine government's collaboration with PAASE through the signed Memorandum of Understanding with the Department of Science and Technology earlier this year. Even better was the news that PAASE Philippines, which is now PAASE Foundation Philippines, has been recognized as a DOST certified foundation. Health is just one of the identified areas of cooperation, in addition to agriculture, engineering, and industrial technologies. I believe and have high hopes that our 3-year accord will be beneficial to the Philippines, particularly in rural communities and areas where scientific, technological, and institutional capacity building opportunities have become very limited. Your ongoing coordination with DOST also solidifies the government's objectives of bringing together the best minds to propel the nation forward, regardless of sectoral background. We remain committed to bringing science closer to society, empowering Filipino-made breakthroughs and innovations to increase productivity and drive prosperity for our nation. That being said, I wish to share with you some of the Philippine government's initiatives in terms of developing new and emerging technologies on COVID-19 during this unprecedented time. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit the world hard, it comes with no surprise then that the DOST, through their dedicated efforts, has demonstrated their potential in innovation acceleration by reinventing the available technologies, such as developing a local COVID-19 RT-PCR detection kit from a technology platform that was initially used for dengue, a telemedicine device that measures the vital signs of patients, an epidemiological modeler software to monitor the COVID-19 spread, and 3D printing for face shield frames and various hospital items. We were able to adjust to the COVID-19 new normal and greatly address health challenges faced in the academic and practical sense. The department also supported new innovations such as designing specimen collection booths, developing locally produced respirators and ventilators, and creating a national COVID travel management system application. The Philippines was also chosen as a pilot country for the WHO's Solidarity Vaccine Trial, owing to our country's readiness for such a large-scale clinical trial that will serve as an opportunity to provide our country with reliable safety and efficacy data based on our own population. DOST is likewise working to establish a Virology Science and Technology Institute of the Philippines and reinstitute its Pharmaceutical Development Center. These will serve as the government's research arm to ensure that the country has the capacity to manufacture the vaccines and drugs, especially for future pandemic situations, but hopefully not. Hopefully no more pandemics. Smart technologies have also been developed and deployed in areas of health, such as telemedicine, education, such as distance learning, agriculture, such as an urban farming, and in digitalization of businesses in an environment where physical contact and interaction has been considerably limited. For example, a disease model called FASTER, or Feasibility Analysis of Syndromic Surveillance using Spatial-Temporal Epidemiological Modeler for early detection of diseases, really a mouthful, was developed during the pandemic, which was originally for dengue, typhoid fever, and measles. It is now used to predict COVID-19 transmission and severity through time and space, thus enabling the Philippine government to decide on appropriate interventions through simulation. All these were done in the context of the government's long-term vision of providing a safe and healthy transition in our road towards recovery and rehabilitation. Aside from initiatives related to COVID-19, the Department of Science and Technology has likewise long recognized the importance of investing in research and development. The government provides grants for the implementation of science-based programs or projects in line with the priorities under the country's National Harmonized Research and Development Agenda. The country's R&D strategy is aligned with our vision of inclusive and sustainable development, and as of this time, we are running on 3.4 billion pesos in R&D investment. With help from our Congress, the DOST in partnership with the Department of Information and Communications Technology, the Department of Trade and Industry, and the National Economic Development Authority gives assistance to micro, small, and medium enterprises, or MSMEs, that produce innovative and R&D contributions to ensure a resilient and sustainable Philippine economy. R&D and innovation can also now be done by enterprises through our program that can capacitate them with R&D capabilities internally. This is our Business Innovation through Science and Technology, or BIST program. Enterprises can apply for assistance to acquire needed hardware and software for R&D. Another entrepreneurial program that assists MSMEs align with the right technological needs is the Small Enterprise Technology Upgrading Program, or SETUP, wherein access to new equipment, technical services, training courses, and database information systems are provided to MSMEs. And as mentioned earlier, we also aim to empower our local communities, especially in remote areas, by deploying science, technology, and innovation interventions that they need. This includes those for basic sanitation, proper nutrition, distance education, disaster risk reduction, and livelihood through the CEST program, or Community Empowerment Through Science and Technology. The DOST is also financing innovation through partnerships between enterprises or businesses, universities, and government R&D institutions. Our program called CRADLE, or Collaborative Research and Development to Leverage the Philippine Economy, is projected to have more subscribers. There are currently 70 approved projects across 16 regions. The government has already awarded grants to 30 institutions and 72 partner industries. On the other hand, NICER program, or Niche Centers in the Regions for R&D, provides institutional grants for higher education and R&D institutions in these regions to improve their research capabilities and address specific science and technology needs of local communities and industries. Currently, there are 35 approved NICERs across 17 regions. We have allocated resources into expanding and upgrading the country's facilities for quality assurance, for new product development, and for R&D to serve industries. New laboratories, including Metrology Center facility devoted to chemistry, has been built. Metals and engineering innovation centers have been set up in 5 of the country's 16 regions. National centers and facilities for R&D have also been put up, such as the Advanced Manufacturing Center, focusing on additive manufacturing technologies, the Advanced Mechatronics, Robotics, and Industrial Automation Laboratories, Green Packaging Center, and the Simulated Packaging Testing Center. Science and technology has played a crucial role in the past 2 years, particularly in COVID-19 research, prevention, and control. Throughout this pandemic, scientists were always appreciated and respected for bringing facts, data, evidence, and academic discourse for the good of humanity. We are therefore happy to learn that DOST has on its website a digitized collection of biobibliographic references of Filipino experts and scientists called SPEARS, or Specialized Philippine and Enterprise Reference of Experts and Scientists. I am sure that the DOST Information Resource and Analytics section would love to hear from PAASE and its members' initiatives, or your names might already be there. And since part of our theme tonight is celebrating the Filipino scientists, I also wish to mention a couple of Filipino medical and health breakthroughs, such as the RX box developed by DOST, which is a biomedical telehealth system that provides healthcare and diagnosis to people in communities that are remote and difficult to access. The Biotech M is a revolutionary diagnostic kit for dengue developed by a local team from the University of the Philippines, Diliman. Ginhawa is a low-cost ventilator for both adults and children that was developed by Filipino researchers, while Aureus, a new way of harvesting solar energy without relying on the heat or visibility of the sun, was developed by Filipino scientist Carve Mainge. And of course, although I am sure most of you are already aware, the Philippines launched its newest nanosatellites, the Maya 3 and the Maya 4, last August 29 of this year. These are the 5th and the 6th generation Filipino satellites to have been launched under the Philippine Microsat program and its successor, the Stamina 4 space program. DOST's Balik Scientist program is also ongoing for those of you or people you might know who are contemplating on doing research back in the Philippines, either short or long term. But I understand this will be discussed in one of your sessions. We are also trying to build up the positive reputation of our Filipino experts, either through DOST's various initiatives, such as the DOST Science Filmmaking Contest, or through the Embassy's online campaign showcasing Filipino experts and their contributions. You are more than welcome to contact us at the Embassy if you have ideas for us to collaborate on. Back home, DOST scholarship programs produced over 500 MS and PhD graduates in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics fields at different levels per year and awarded more than 10,000 MS PhD scholarships across the country, from which more than 4,000 scholars already graduated. Our Department of Education supplements these efforts through their initiative encouraging more women into taking hard sciences, as our government recognizes the huge disparity of men and women in the STEM careers. DOST is also working with experts to help build the music industry in the Philippines by honing into the creative economy, particularly the world of the original Filipino music, OPM. The DOST National Research Council hopes to bring to the forefront the wonders of Filipino music and help create the government's policy regarding the complex social and economic dynamics of the music ecosystem of our country. As you all may know, we are celebrating the 75th anniversary of Philippines-US relations this year. Our 75 years of partnership in the economic, military, and defense, social, cultural, among others, is a testament to the depth and breadth of our relations. A large part of our relations rely on the consistent and mutually beneficial transfer of knowledge and information in this age of innovation and information. We hope that we can take advantage of our partnerships at the government-to-government level and between nonprofit organizations in the Philippines and the US. It is with the help of organizations such as PAASE and the like-minded people who are gathered here today that makes the future bright and promising. Your expertise will greatly supplement the government's initiatives in guiding the nation forward. Just like our Ambisyon Natin 2040 and harmonized national R&D agenda, we are open and keen to listen to your views as you are part of the intricate relationship between the Philippines and the United States. Take, for example, the COVID-19 situation and its vaccines. In order for the Philippines to build up its manufacturing capacity, we work with our partners here in the US on the possibility of knowledge transfers and exchange between our countries. We can even scale up to more pressing matters we have today, such as global warming and marine conservation, which are both priorities that call upon everyone from the private and the public sector, from the hard sciences to the soft sciences, to contribute their area of expertise into the mix so that the wide, complex, and comprehensive obstacles can be overcome. We are also celebrating Filipino American History Month this time around. Let me just emphasize this. PAASE and its 40-year story is a perfect example of why we celebrate Filipino American History Month. Our forebears, the Manongs and the Manangs, including PAASE's founders, may have never dreamt that their personal and collective stories would one day be celebrated for a month. They broke their backs in the canneries of Alaska, in the fields of Hawaii, in the streets of San Francisco and New York, and if I may add, in the classrooms, research laboratories, and medical centers throughout this country, so that the next generation could sit at the table with the rest of the community. That is the dream that has been realized for some time now, thanks to you and to organizations such as PAASE. But it is important for us and the younger generations of Filipino and Filipino Americans to understand and to continue to celebrate the story of how our community came to be where it is now. Your theme for this anniversary celebration, symposium, and meeting is therefore timely and appropriate. Celebrating the Filipino scientists and your individual and collective stories and achievements will undoubtedly inspire the younger generations of Filipino Americans to follow your footsteps, to raise the profile of our community here in the US, to take part in our national development efforts back home, and to further strengthen Philippines-US relations. Friends, we are confident that PAASE will continue to be instrumental in promoting collaborations among Filipino scientists in order to help advance the sciences, teaching, research, and development either back in the Philippines and here in the US. We look forward to a partnership that is not limited to the dissemination of scientific information, but includes a forward-looking and comprehensive national plan, a healthy scientific entrepreneurial environment, the capacity building of institutions, and the increase of Filipino human capital for the Philippines to be more than just being the Facebook capital of the world. We at the Philippine Embassy are deeply honored to have PAASE as a partner and wish each and every one of our scientists and engineers more success in your respective fields. We look forward to more of your accomplishments and contributions, not only to our motherland, to this country, but to humanity. Maraming salamat. May you have a productive and successful meeting and symposium in the next 2 years. Mabuhay kayong lahat. Mabuhay ang PAASE.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chief of Mission Jaime Escalon. We are happy to let you know that we are in touch with the Commercial Counselor, Mr. Kenneth Yap, and the Head of Economic Section of the Embassy of the Philippines, Mr. Dominic Xavier Imperial. And probably in the next month or so, we'll be having discussions with them about how PAASE can help, further help, the efforts of our diplomatic section. But before we end, we would like to call on our Chairman of the Board of Directors, Dr. Marge Peña, to help us just give you our appreciation. Sure.
Thank you very much for honoring us with your presence tonight. And so we have a plaque of appreciation awarded to Honorable Jose Manuel Romualdez, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary, Philippine Ambassador to the United States, for sharing his invaluable knowledge as keynote speaker on the 41st Annual Philippine American Academy of Science and Engineering Meeting and Symposium. Baltimore, Maryland, October 8, 2021. Certificate of appreciation is presented to Jaime Ramon Ascalon. I should remove my mask. Deputy Chief of Mission, Embassy of the Philippines, Washington, D.C., for delivering the keynote address on behalf of Ambassador Manuel Romualdez on October 8, 2021, during the opening program of the 2021 PAASE Annual Meeting and Symposium, APAMS, Baltimore, Maryland, USA. Signed by Dr. Gisela Concepcion, our president, and Mario Santo Domingo, our co-host for tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, DCM Escalon. That was a very inspiring speech. Does anybody have questions? Are we doing questions and answers? We don't have time. Okay. So the next part of this evening's presentations would be the panel titled Celebrating the 4 Decades of PAASE, Looking Forward Through the Lens of History. Our first speaker is a PAASE founder and the second president of PAASE after Dr. Severino Ko. Are you going to introduce?
Sure. Dr. Jose B. Cruz was the president of PAASE in 1982. And he was a distinguished professor of electrical and computer engineering at the Ohio State University. He was elected as a member of the U.S. National Academy of Engineering in 1980, right when PAASE was organized by Dr. Severino Ko. He was also a fellow of the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineering and the fellow of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, or the AAAS. Please welcome Dr. Jose B. Cruz Jr.
Jose Manuel Romualdez, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary, Philippine Ambassador to the United States. Members of the 2021 PAASE Board of Directors and Officers. The conference committees, led by conference chairs Lea Tolosa Croucher and Mariano Santo Domingo. Ladies and gentlemen, magandang gabi po sa kanilang lahat. Good evening to everyone. I am pleased and honored to serve on this panel discussion celebrating the 4 decades of PAASE, looking forward through the lens of history. May I present and celebrate some of the successes of PAASE members of the first decade. At this time, I will name 4 members. Number 1, Josefino C. Comiso, a founding member, recipient of numerous awards from NASA, including the Exceptional Scientific Achievement Medal in 2013. He was the chief scientist on many aircraft missions to fly over the Arctic and Antarctic from space to remotely measure the thickness of ice at various times, thus making major contributions to studies in climate change. Number 2, Alfredo H.S. Ang, a founding member, member of the National Academy of Engineering before PASE was created, the world's top expert on earthquake-proof buildings and underground structures. During an earthquake in Mexico many decades ago, although most buildings collapsed, those designed by Nathan Newmark, the PhD mentor of Dr. Ang, remained standing. Newmark passed away many decades ago, and Alfredo H.S. Ang has become the top world expert. Number 3, Leon O. Chua, a founding member, invented the memristor in 1971, a nonlinear two-terminal electronic device that is resistive except that it has memory. He developed the theory. No one ever succeeded in building an actual device, but recently, Hewlett-Packard, or HP, announced that it can fabricate the memristor. This was reported in Time magazine a few years ago. Number 4, our foremost and top achiever is clearly Baldomero M. Oliveira. He developed numerous medicinal curing properties of a highly poisonous snail found in the Philippines. He was elected to the Institute of Medicine in 2006, now called the National Academy of Medicine, and in 2009, he was elected to the National Academy of Science. These are 2 of the 3 academies within the U.S. National Academies. I consider these members as our 4 stars. Permit me to continue with my celebration of the achievements of our PASE founding members and other members elected during our first decade. In the year 2000, 20 years after the PASE organization was founded, our founding president, Severino L. Cole, appointed me to chair a screening committee to select the first winners of the Founders Lectures Award, one for science and one for engineering, with a certificate and a cash prize of $1,000 each. Our founding president, together with his wife, personally contributed the funds to establish the lectureship. On behalf of our committee, I announced our selections: Baldomero M. Oliveira for science and Alfredo H.S. Ang for engineering for the year 2000. Our records indicate that of the 6 winners in 2001, 2002, and 2003, 4 are founding members. In 2004, the lectureship was renamed as the Severino and Paz Co-Lectureship Awards. These lectureship awards are posted on our website. I encourage you to examine the list. Notice the preponderance of founding members and those who became members during our first decade in the early years to win the lectureship awards from 2000 until 2008. Incidentally, there is a tradition of returning the $1,000 cash prize back to PASE. It might be appropriate to raise this to recognize the significant value of the award, with the expectation that it would be returned to PASE by the recipient. Now looking forward, my lens of history is necessarily colored by my total experience inside and outside of PASE. The purpose of this second part of my oral presentation is to raise issues regarding moving forward. Should we, individually and collectively, be planning our collective identity for the next few decades? Should our mission remain, or should we be embarking on a more extensive role in a global agenda? As a sample new direction, should we become an organization that seeks substantial influence on partnerships to advance the economic well-being and security of the Philippines? In addition, should we become an organization that seeks substantial influence on partnerships in the United States to benefit the United States as well as the Philippines in accordance with the Articles of Incorporation in the states of Indiana and Maryland? As scientists and engineers of Filipino descent working throughout the world, our current PASE Charter binds us to help each other. Should we bind ourselves on a different basis? Should the PASE board appoint a committee to plan what PASE wants to be for the next 10, 20, 30, or 40 years? Since PASE is a 501c3 organization, can it accept donations so a skeleton paid staff could be hired to establish a web presence independent of the PASE Foundation in the Philippines? Should we have a public list of members with pictures and brief bios like the National Academy of Engineering or the National Academy of Science and Technology in the Philippines so the public can find out who we are? Let us think individually and in groups of what we want PASE to be in the future. Let us look forward. Thank you.
Address to all of you, and it's my honor to do so. She titled it "My Memories of PASE" by Dr. Victoria Guerrero Adelera. Dear fellow PASE members and colleagues, I became a member of PASE in 1986. The organization was still in its infancy then. I was invited by Dr. Josefina Comizo, NASA scientist. There were 30 plus members at that time when I came on board, with one foreign member from Alberta, Canada, Dr. Eusebio Cole. It was a family of scientists and engineers with a desire to extend the membership of the entire Filipino-American nationals, including Canada. We met every month. I held 3 administrative positions: secretary, treasurer, and vice president in 1998. Monthly minutes were prepared and read to all. 14 regular members came to each meeting where we brought potlucks prepared by the wives of PASE members. These monthly meetings were at whomsoever offered their residence. There was no membership fee enforced. The source of revenue was annual dues of $20 and donations to cover expenses at our annual meetings. I was secretary, treasurer, editor, contributor, media producer. Whatever articles I received were published and disseminated. The organization looked like an honor society since it did not require mandatory membership fees. The treasurer's balance in 1999 was $600. Acknowledgements go to Doctors Tanchoco, Manny Velasquez, who we lost last year, Felix Buot, Ernie Terrado, who's still here, whom I diligently served happily and wholeheartedly. During my tenure as president, and as I said, she was the first woman president. And if you think about it, she was president in 1998. That was 18 years after the foundation of PASE. It's like any other organizations, right? For us women, we like to cook the potlucks, but it takes a while to become president. That's fine. So I put together, no, this is Vicky talking now. I put together the 1999 Second International Meeting in cooperation and with a memorandum of understanding with the Philippine National Science and Technology under Dr. Conrado Dairit, who happens to be Toby Dairit's father, assisted by Dr. Lourdes Cruz, UP Marine Science professor and NAST academician, Luningning Samarita. More than 200 attended the meeting. Also in 1999, the organization approved to extend its memberships to Filipinos who are in the Philippines, as well as those who have the proper credentials, of course. Interestingly, PASE members in the Philippines make up the majority now of PASE. We were able to admit more than 10 at that time, candidates from NAST and the faculties of UP, UST, and De La Salle became members, including Dr. Lourdes Cruz, Dr. Gloria Bernas, also RIP, Dr. Alvin Colaba, and Dr. Rafael Guerrero III. That was the first time that the candidates from abroad became PASE members. In earlier years, a group of Filipino Americans based in America were already given the opportunity to return under the National Academy of Science and Technology as balik scientists in the likes of Dr. Alfonso Albano, Dr. R. Mariano, Dr. Tanchoco, Dr. Amador Muriel, and Dr. J.B. Cruz, to name a few. Also during my time, a directory of memberships was finalized by Dr. Felix Buot and Florence Kreisman Kua, or Kua Kreisman. Certificates of appreciations were specially prepared by Dr. Rommel Gomez's father-in-law, so it's a family affair. The first Sulo newsletter came into fruition, where I was its first editor and publisher. Several articles were written and published. The last issue was in 2000. I am also the author of Dr. Comisa's biography for NAST. It was also during the remaining years of my tenure that a directory of membership was finally finished. In 1999, Eduardo Padlan became the elected president, but immediately turned it over to Dr. Sibyl Detera Wadley, which is why we have two presidents in 1999. We've come a long way. Some of us have retired, some getting ready to retire, and I'm pretty sure she's talking about not us. I've retired from teaching and presently using my teaching and research experience in my capacity as a health-related employee, research assistant, and medical missionary with my husband, Benjamin Abelera, and my physician sister, Isabel, since 2010 under the auspices of Trenton Bukas Loob sa Diyos, or BLD. Our mission works started in 2010 to 2020 and currently on hiatus because of the COVID pandemic. Together, we served in the remote areas of the Philippines for 19 years, Jamaica with the Missionaries of the Poor for 2 years, Sri Lanka Medical Mission for 4 years, but the three of us are still members of PASE. In February 10, 2020, I was elected treasurer of the Tiba Cristobal Foundation, a nonprofit organization with the same values like PASE, based in Baguio City, serving the needs of the universities of the Cordilleras, that includes the UP system and the Cordilleras. I learned a lot from PASE and continue to hone my humble contribution to humanity as its member. Thank you for the opportunity to serve. Vicky Guerrero Abelera.
Thank you very much, Dr. Croucher, for telling us the story of the first woman president of PASE, Dr. Vicky Avelera. Now, our next president, who will be telling us his story, is also a historic president because he was the first president of PASE who was based in the Philippines ever. Dr. Alvin Culaba has a very long list of accomplishments, but I won't read all those, but only the last award that he won at De La Salle University. And they call the award the La Salle Pillar of Excellence. It's the highest award because of the award's ability to combine teaching, research, and community engagement. And I've seen Dr. Culaba work in his community to the highest level, very, very highly committed. Recently, he was called a patriot of science and technology in the Philippines because of his work in communities, especially in Leyte. So I'll not further tell you about it because you will know about Dr. Culaba as he tells his story. Alvin?
Okay. Thank you so much, Mario, and really an honor to belong to this panel of discussion, especially celebrating the 4 decades of PASE. And yes, it really is an honor to be part of this organization. And thank you so much, esteemed members, colleagues in PASE. Thank you so much, Dr. Jose B. Cruz, for that recollection, and of course to our former president, Dr. Victoria Abelera. I couldn't remember really how I actually started my association with PASE until I've heard, the one that you shared to us through Leah's, presentation. But my particular role here is really to share during my time how actually, PASE has brought, the engagement of Filipino scientists right here, in the Philippines. And therefore, I want to share, how SNP champions from PAASE has become, leaders of today. So if you can see here, I was young then. I joined PAASE 3 years after I finished my PhD. And as mentioned by Dr. Abelera, I was admitted or, elected to this membership back in 1999. So that's over 2 decades now with PAASE. And these pictures that I've shown here are my, first 2 attendances in PAASE conference in the US, both in Maryland, and now we're still in Maryland now, that was in Solomon's Island and in Baltimore, hosted by University of Maryland, in Baltimore. So anyway, it really all started, in 2006 when, I'm part of this group of local PAASE members who really worked, hard, on helping, the Philippine science and technology, in the country. We're all Filipinos based in the Philippines. We were probably, I would say, SNP champions, at the time. We felt that, Philippines having actually been aware of our neighboring countries like Thailand and Malaysia. Philippines at the time, the R&D spending was really something like 0.078% of the gross domestic product, while Thailand and Malaysia then was already at 0.27% and 0.49%, respectively. So we thought really that we need to campaign to increase the R&D budget if we need to advance the general state of knowledge, in our country. Technological innovation and economic growth are mutually reinforcing, as we have actually, reinforced our position at the time. And we know very well that rapid and sustained economic growth needs R&D support, which would lead to the creation of jobs, reduction of poverty, and improve the overall quality of life of Filipinos. So it was back in the State of the Nation address of the then President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, which I share. Indeed, we want also to celebrate, the photo that appears there, other than PGMA, was the late Congressman Luis Villafuerte Jr. So he was our champion at the Congress. He really made this happen. And I think we pay due respect to this man who is behind our campaign back in 2006. So it was actually at the 27th APAMS in Manila that this actually, campaign came into fruition. So the then President PGMA at her speech already publicly, announced that the issuance of key action plans, at least 3 of those, that PAASE really pursued, were actually announced during that time back in February 16 in 2017. One of those was the issuance of the Executive Order number 604, creating the Presidential Coordinating Council on Research and Development. On that day that she was our guest of honor, she issued that EO according to her statement. And of course, the composition of that provides PAASE as one of the member of this council to represent, the the Association of Scientists, and Engineers. And this body until now exists. Now, whether it's functioning or not, that's another question. The second key action plan that we pursued during the campaign was for the budget, to increase significantly the budget for the human resource development. And on that also, APAMS in 2017, PGMA, instructed the Department of Budget and Management to release 100 million each to the UST and to the Commission on Higher Education, primarily to support, MS and PhD scholarships. And many of whom who are now new members of PAASE, and even those who are not even members of PAASE yet, have benefited from this scholarship until now, which has been mentioned also in the speech by Honorable Romualdez. And also significantly, we pursued the establishment of the National Science Complex in UP Diliman. And again, on that same APAMS, the release of 500 million initially to set up the National Science Complex, which should have served the entire science population, has made a reality. And the National Science Complex now is there. And for us, to capitalize as we pursue our scientific, endeavors. The work continues. 15 years on. Yes, I could remember, a Filipino-based president, of an organization established in the US is no easy task. But again, with the support of our, stalwarts, of our committed members of PAASE, especially those based in the Philippines, this has flourished. As President Gisela mentioned earlier, the leadership of PAASE alternately changes between US and the Philippines since then, and it became a tradition. More relevant and engaging with the government with this mechanism. And of course, the birth of PAASE Foundation Philippines, which has evolved to, as it is now, has been initiated by the PAASE and STD champions and leaders, and today, the pursuit of our PAASE champions continued without fail, and they eventually become S&T leaders in our country. Our job is not yet done. We will continue our pursuit to become a global S&T player. Today, if you look at, our champions of S&T leaders within PAASE, we have also become S&T leaders and PAASE stalwarts. And we enjoin everyone, to become one. And we know with the new invigorated and energized members of PAASE, there is no way, we're going forward in the next 10, 20, 30 years as will be envisioned and is, being challenged by Dr. Sebi Cruz, what would be PAASE in the near future. So Ernesto Pernia here, Rodora Azanza, Fabian Dairit, Gisela Concepcion, Cesar Saloma, and myself, I hope we will have the next generation of PAASE stalwarts who would become, also from champions to leaders in our S&T community in the Philippines. Thank you so much, and I wish success of the APAMS 2021, and I wish all the best for everyone. Good morning from the Philippines, good evening in the US, and elsewhere in the world. Thank you and good day.
She's the only PASE president who was president twice. First in 2012 and now and then in 2020. She needs no introduction, and Mario has already given you a list of all her accomplishments earlier. She's now going to tell us about PASE in the present. Giselle?
Thank you, Leah. Thank you again, Mario. Thanks to Doctors Joe Cruz, Vicky Avellera, and Alvin Pulaba for your presentations. I'd like to share my screen. Greetings again, everyone. Allow me poetic or scientific license using ontogeny, morphogeny, and phylogeny in loose terms to show you how PASE is like a healthy dynamic organism with growing complexity, evolving to adapt to the ST ecology, to influence it and make a positive impact. So this slide shows you the abstract of my talk. And here I will share the paths and mechanisms we have taken in PASE in the last decade along these lineages of development. And we think that today, in the current S&T ecosystem, PASE seems to be thriving, if not flourishing, amidst the emergence of a new VUCA environment. So we are breathing life into PASE. And when I first joined PASE, my older friends in PASE who recruited me said, PASE is quite passé. I say PASE is not passé. PASE is taking a whole of interdisciplinary science, whole of S&T ecosystem, whole of community approach to knowledge-driven development. So I like to take exception of Ambassador Romualdez' message that we are taking a whole of nation approach. To do this, we need to recruit more social scientists in PASE, which we are currently doing. PASE's DNA and ontogeny, inception and early development, our nature, our DNA, science and engineering intertwined in PASE. We uphold the quality of our purpose, our membership, and our achievements. We recruit members based on meritocracy, and we recognize our achievements through events like 41st APAMS. Nature and nurture, our ontogeny, inception and early development, as described by Doctors Joe Cruz and Vicky Avellera. We honor our founding father, Dr. Severino Co, Professor of Engineering, our model scientist, engineer, philanthropist, immortalized by the Co Awards in Science and Engineering. We have our founding members as inspiring early leaders, setting goals and directions as described by Doctors Cruz and Avellera. PASE's morphogeny, our growth and development, which we are focusing on today. We are growing in members in leaps and bounds. We are now 491 strong and growing, hopefully to about 550 by next year. We have enhanced organizational structure. We have amended the Constitution to increase the term of the officials, the president and vice president, to 2 years. And this selects for committed leaders in PASE and ensures the continuity of our programs. Very importantly, we have limitless, borderless communication and interactions now among our members. And we know this, it is forced upon us, partly by COVID. We have our weekly activities. We have Zoom to carry us through our communications. We have PASE as a go-to organization to find S&T experts, to serve as leaders and consultants any kind of human and rest of nature problem. And we have this information site, our PASA website, to go to for this kind of need. Let us say that we are unique in that foreign-based and local PASA members provide a unique vantage point. They can look at our chocolate hills in Bohol to symbolize that. PASA's phylogeny, we are differentiating. Our members are positioned to perform unique functions driven by our phylogeny. And we are speciating in response to selective pressures of problems presented to us by the ST and the ecosystem in relation to others. Can PASA become, okay, now these are examples from the non-biological world, a perpetual motion machine, an immortal entity through progeny, creating fusion or synergistic energy? I say the sun never sets on PASA, and that's because we are everywhere, all over the world. And while some of us are sleeping, some of us are working. While some of us are retiring, some of us are just beginning our careers and peaking our careers in science and engineering. The sun never sets on PASA. The beaten path, that's what we're taking. We know that there are serious problems in the Philippines, and there's a road not taken by many, and there's a road not or less traveled by many. And we are taking up the challenge of taking this road. So here we have paths and mechanisms taken by PASA in the last decade along our lineages of development. First, to show you our structure, is symbolized, represented by our go-to PASA website, which is full of information. Anything about PASA, you can find in this website. We've organized it into 12 boxes. These boxes are filled with information. It's not yet complete, but we are completing this information. We have the history, we have the financial and the records and the record of our minutes of the meetings. I have a message to our members twice a month. We have our announcements and calendar of our weekly activities, webinars, fireside chats, meetings. We have a PASA bulletin from our vice president about our ongoings at the board meetings. This is most important, the box on members. It tells us all our members, both full and associate, and also the RECs, the research expertise clusters that belong to. We also have information on how to become a PASA member. We have webinars, fireside chats, which are regularly updated. We have recordings of all our activities. We have publications. We have an official journal now known as Sci-NJ, which we are encouraged to patronize. We have a position paper, much like we prepared in 2006. The photo of the last of the 6 PASA members that Alvin showed are the co-authors of the 2006 PASA position paper for government to increase its support for science and technology. Our meetings from 2018 are recorded here. You can find them, you can use them as references, even for your courses. We have tributes and legacies, including tributes to our co-awardees. Then we have a campaign to support PASA, donate to PASA, support its projects. And very importantly, we have linkages and collaborations, MOUs and MOAs, now numbering over 10, and this has not yet been completed in this site. And we have our YouTube channel where we show our mission banners supporting the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Okay, so at the heart of PASA are its members. This is our treasure, our S&T experts spanning the whole range of the sciences and engineering, including social sciences. We have 14 research expertise clusters, and Alvin, our S&T patriot, is proposing a 15th research expertise cluster. Now, what does this allow us to do? It allows us to contribute to the creation of an STI ecosystem direly needed in the Philippines. This tells us of the critical value of collaborations and linkages, and we have formed these linkages and are part of public-private partnerships with state universities and colleges and private HEIs, higher education institutions, and also the private sector. This is what makes PASE unique. We are private and we are able to move more flexibly. So here are some of our ongoing projects and collaborations. As Chief Deputy of Mission Ascalon mentioned, we have an MOU with the DOST. We are now a PAS Foundation in the Philippines, and this allows us to collaborate on a formal basis, official basis, with the DOST. And this is one of our most important linkages and ways for PASA to contribute to Philippine social economic development. If we are to participate in DOST's programs, which is funded by the government, now to the tune of about 3 to 4 billion. So what we did was to create a survey form to make our application to DOST programs easier. Okay, even before we complete the DOST application forms, we can sign up and look and see in this PASA DOST collaboration survey. Okay, so you can click this and fill it up. And I hope that Secretary De La Peña and Undersecretary Guevara will tell us more about this. We have many activities. Okay, this is our 41st APAMS with distinguished speakers and participants. We have had fireside chats where we signed the MOU with Leyte stakeholders, the president of EVSU, and farmers associations, and the private sector. We are signing an MOU with the Bataan stakeholders on Tuesday afternoon. We have held a fireside chat with CAMP, the Coalition of Agriculture Modernization of the Philippines, on the coconut industry. And we are focused on uplifting, upgrading basic science, leading to publications in the Philippines by adopting the Sci-Ang-J Science and Engineering Journal as our official journal. This is formerly the Philippine Science Letters, and we are encouraging everyone to support this journal. We are hoping that even DOST researchers can publish in this journal. During the time of COVID, and with the help of Ambassador Romualdez and Consul General in San Francisco, Henry Bensurto, we were able to get the first batch of CEPHID RT-PCR kits to the Philippines with the help of PASA members. And here we have very significantly the first MOU signed with a private HEI, Technological Institute of the Philippines, where our point person is none other than Dr. Joe Cruz, working closely with the dynamic, indefatigable president of TIP, Dr. Elizabeth Laos. Sorry. Okay, today, where are we? PASA is part of private-public partnerships in Leyte, led by Alvin and Joel, in Rizal, led by Mario, and in Bataan, led by Gobet, CP, Toby, and others. And there is what we call corporeal and corpovirtual presence of PASE members in these programs. So join us on Tuesday for the Bataan MOU signing involving 6 stakeholders: the Bataan Provincial Governor's Office and LGU, PASE, National Resilience Council, DOST3, the Carlos P. Romulo Foundation, and the Bataan Peninsula State University. A note about silent workers in PASE: our officers, board members, standing and ad hoc committee chairs and members, MOU, MOA point persons, active rec chairs, active members, our speakers and discussants in our activities, and generous donors and benefactors. We owe you a deep debt of gratitude. Okay, this is something that I presented to Secretary Boy during the DOST report 2 Fridays ago, just to remind us that we now have a Philippine subsidiary. It's the PASA Foundation Philippines Incorporated, where the chairman of the board is Professor Emeritus Ernesto Pernia. Our taglines that we've been using quite effectively: agham at kaalaman para sa bayan, PASE S&T volunteerism outreach to Philippine regions. My vision: foster patriotism among Filipino S&T experts. Our mission: it's inclusivity. Okay, we are open. We are recruiting many more Filipino S&T experts in the country and worldwide and organizing them into RECs. And this, we value meritocracy. We recognize achievements of outstanding members of the S&T Filipino community, and we recruit on the basis of evidence-based output, such as publications. We are one in supporting knowledge-driven economy. We champion STEM education and S&T R&D as major drivers of socio-economic development. We are into strategic linkages. We forge collaborations with government, academia, and the private sector. And we support the DOST fully for its knowledge to action, science for the people, science for change programs by engaging our interdisciplinary teams of PASA experts to contribute to S&T projects, STEM and higher education, and R&D mentoring. Implementable plans and actions. If you recall, in 40th APAMS, we wanted to hold a Balik Ka sa Bayan Mo, Tayo Na ecotourism, R&D and R&R tour in different regions of the country, hosted by some of our past members. Unang-una na dyan si Alvin sa Leyte. Hindi nangyari, pero maaari pa rin mangyari. Okay? Under the DOST programs, we could serve as balik scientists. Local PASA members can be RD leaders, and all of us can be hosts of R&D training in our labs. And we could also be mentors and consultants serving in government agencies, SUCs, HEIs, and the private sector. Wishes for DOST PASA linkages in the future? Secretary De La Peña asked me for this. And I said, partner with PASA Foundation Philippines to pursue 3 strategic thrusts in the current 2021 PASA S&T Human Capital Development paper with 3 thrusts: improving STEM education at the secondary level, increasing PhD faculty and R&D in 6 in the regions, and strengthening academe, industry, government linkages. Our position paper is posted on our website. Second, expedite the processing of applications to DOST programs of PASA members. We've done our share by coming up with this questionnaire. I got a lot of help from our new member, Aini Mundo. Thank you, Aini. Balik ka sa bayan mo, tayo na, with the DOST, Department of Tourism, and the Department of Trade and Industry. Fourth, I wanted that PASA Journal ScienJ would be supported by the DOST and provide a way for their researchers in the institutes to publish their work. PASA is playing in a level playing field today. Okay, so those mountains in Bohol are high, but they're not too high. We can climb them, we can reach them. In the current S&T ecosystem, PASA seems to be thriving, if not flourishing, amidst the emergence of the new VUCA environment in relation to others. Our call to action, a search for S&T patriots, S&T servant leaders like Alvin. On a softer or more comforting note, PASA is home where Philippine scientists and engineers belong, where we can grow older and wiser together in retirement and be scientific, professional, and personal friends forever. Thank you.
Dr. Leah Tolosa has a question. Would you like to come over?
I do have a question for Giselle. This PASE Foundation Philippines, you call it a subsidiary of PASE. I'm not sure what is the mechanism to separate PASE as an organization and PASE Philippine Foundation? I mean, I'm just a little confused.
So Leah, it's something that we have been discussing in the board meetings. So first of all, it's our way to engage with more formally with the DOST. So it was Secretary Boy who requested that we transform PASE into a foundation. Previously, in the last 15 years or so, we have had PASE Philippines Incorporated as an association, and it has always served well by receiving funds from our members and registrants during PASE meetings, and that was all it did. So it functioned with as a way to get participation when there were events in the Philippines. And so now we have converted the same organization through the SEC to a foundation. And the requirements are more stringent. Okay, so I think that allows us more leeway in pursuing our programs in the Philippines. So all of these matters are being discussed at the board meetings, and I have also shared with you the documents of the PASE Foundation in our Google group. Thank you.
Thank you, Giselle. There's no question online, but there's a comment from Dr. Francis de los Reyes acknowledging Giselle's vision, leadership, and energy. Kudos. So if there are no questions from our audience here and from online, I'd like to give the last few minutes to Dr. Alvin Culaba and Dr. Joe Cruz to give some parting words. Would you like to start, Dr. Cruz?
Hello.
Hey.
Good evening. As I told Mario, I need to leave for another engagement before 9. And so I can only perhaps answer one question and departing word. I laid out my vision for moving forward. And like Leah, I have a question about how we can delineate what we do in the Philippines and what we do in the United States as organizations incorporated in the states of, in 2 states, in Indiana as well as in Maryland, where the articles of incorporation talk about benefits to the United States. And so we need to revisit all our foundational documents and sort it out. So I wish everyone well, and I think PASI is really moving forward, and it is not passe, as Giselle said. It is very active, and I'm glad to hear the remarks by Vicky, Alvin, and Giselle. So thank you very much, and I hope the rest of the Q&A is recorded, and I think they are, so I can review them later and participate over the next whatever. You know, I'm getting there in age.
Thank you, Dr. Cruz, for continuing to guide us through the years. And the last few words from Dr. Alvin Calava.
Can you share? Can I open my video, please? Anyway, yes, our work back in 15 years ago is not done yet. We envisioned at that time to increase the budget of our R&D spending from at the time 0.2% to 0.5% in 2010, and supposedly by now we should be at 1% of the GDP. But it has never happened. But in absolute terms, as far as I know, DOST received some around 3.8 billion pesos, which is quite substantial, for human capital development and R&D. But that is not enough. If we have to be an S&P player in the global, competition, we have to benchmark it at what UNESCO wants to see developing countries spending at least 1% of our GDP to R&D spending. And I hope that our new breed of scientists, new breed of champions and stalwarts of PAASE will push this. You know, you have more energy, I know. The 6 of us has already done 15 years ago, and we are still doing it now. So we need more and more young and more energetic. Of course, we have also the not so young, colleagues here, many, but let us push this. We have to reach that big milestone, and be ready. But I think what we are currently doing is we're building the human capacity, the human capital development, and hopefully when that time comes, we have more warm bodies to spend that amount of money to really push the Philippines in the 21st century. So I wish you all to actively engage with PAASE and with the government proactively. Okay, let's not, let's just be proactive. Whatever happens, whatever challenges, funds without funds, we can do it. Okay, and to the regions as well. Thank you so much, Mario, Leah, Giselle, Dr. Cruz. Thank you so much to be part of this discussion.
Thank you, Alvin. And of course, the last words will be from a woman. 2 minutes, Dr. Concepcion. Thanks.
Thanks, Mario, for this. I just wanted to reply to Joe's question. Joe, yes. So how will we move towards getting a US-based PAS empowered? So also this year and late last year, we worked so hard in the board to get the tax exempt status of ASE US. So now we are tax exempt, and you're so right. We have to spend some of the money from donations in the United States. Okay, so now what have we done to try to get a program that is based in the United States? We joined a proposal led by the Arizona State University for a USAID proposal on climate and sustainability. We did not get the award, but we tried. And for that, we got the sum and the DUNS numbers of the PASE in the United States in place. So we now have the DUNS and the SAM numbers that would allow us to become recipients of subrecipients of grants with other organizations or universities in the United States. So this is very empowering for US-based PASE. So that's all I wanted to say, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Concepcion. Thank you very much, Dr. Cruz and Dr. Colaba. We would like to talk some more, but we don't have time. We're scheduled to start our next plenary talk 5 minutes ago. So, but we will have a 5-minute break. So to give people, some breathing space, we will resume at 8:55. Thank you so much again, Dr. Concepcion and Dr. Gulaba. We really appreciate everything that you've done for you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good day.
4 minutes. 21, and this will be the last plenary session for tonight here. But remember that there will be 3 parallel sessions, after this. One is on evolution, ecology, and fisheries. That's Rec 1. Second is plant agriculture, farming, and food. That's Rec 4. And the third one is Rec 11, disease, medicine, and pharmaceuticals. 2 of them will start at 10, and one will be starting at 9:30. So hopefully we'll be able to finish in time. But the thing is, we will be using one of the recs will be using the same account that we're using right now. So if anyone would like to donate, we can have a more powerful Zoom webinar, because we can do simultaneous sessions. So right now we are limited. Yes. Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, I would like to call on Dr. Lourdes Harold to introduce our plenary speakers.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first plenary session of the 41st APAMS. This session features 2 seemingly diverse talks. However, they are linked by having a common goal: a creation of a better world with better energy sources for all and a healthier environment and population. The first speaker is Dr. Ernesto Tirado. He is the key expert on rural electrification that was funded by the European Union, and it's called the EU ASEP initiative. And this has recently ended in September 6, 2021. And Dr. Tirado is the key expert on rural electrification. Dr. Tirado got his PhD in chemical engineering as a Christopher Meminger Fellow at the University of Virginia. Ernie was a senior energy consultant at the World Bank, Washington, D.C. for Latin America, East Asia, and Middle East and North Africa regions in areas of off-grid rural electrification, renewable energy technologies and policies, biomass fuels, household energy, climate change and environment, and carbon finance. He retired in December 2015, and he got bored and went and took the job at the EU ASEP and became the key expert in rural electrification. Because of shortness of time, I'm not going to go through his latest consultative work. It's really amazing. He was in Iran, he was in Kuwait, he was in Vanuatu, Papua New Guinea, Tanzania, Tuvalu, Federated States of Micronesia, Rwanda, Uganda, and Uganda again. Oh my gosh, I'm tired already. Here is Dr. Dorado, who will give a talk on off-grid electrification in the Philippines, challenges and approaches. This promises to be an electrifying talk.
Thank you so much, Lulu. Good evening to all. I thank the organizers for inviting me to make this presentation.
Sorry.
This is based, this presentation, not that one.
Hang on.
Okay, this presentation is based on work I did in the Philippines for 5 years, starting in 2016. Actually, last year we had to come back, my wife and I, because of COVID. And I had to finish the last year from my home remotely. But it's now done. It was finished last month. I spent a lot of time in the rural, remote areas of the Philippines. I enjoyed it a lot. I hope you find it interesting. This project was financed by the European Union, and my employer was the German company GIZ.
I'm sorry.
I think I pressed the wrong. Yeah. Okay. All right. Just to go quickly, I'm supposed to talk fast. I don't have enough time. The project consisted of two parts: a software parts, technical studies, which I manage a lot, and then an investment component for solar home systems. The investment component was managed by the World Bank, and straightforward, the installation of 50,000 solar home systems in Mindanao for people in the remote areas that have no electricity. The one that I managed had three kinds of studies, and why they are categorized into three will become evident as I talk. Policy and strategy studies, development and planning tools, and then integrated livelihood with electrification pilots. Let's go quickly into an overview of the Philippine electrification situation. If you look at the Philippines, there are three main high voltage transmission lines. One in Luzon, one in Visayas, one in Mindanao. Big communities that are near this connect directly to the lines through a transformer, of course. And that is how most of the Philippines is electrified. If you are in the remote or small areas with a little community, you are not attractive for the private sector. The National Power Corporation, Special Power Utilities Group, they are mandated by law to provide power to these people in these nearby remote communities, nearby but remote, in terms of profitability. And of course, it costs a lot of money. So the NPC has to be subsidized by the government. It's not that easy. Otherwise, the private sector will just jump in. So the problem we have in the Philippines in off-grid electrification is so providing
access is still unserved, remote households, and then how to sustain service to the NPC spike diesels. Very, very difficult problem. By the way, so in other words, when you are talking of off-grid areas, these are small isolated islands or people anywhere, even in some parts of Luzon that are hard to reach, right? And so I was telling you, NPC SPAG is the company, the government company mandated to serve these people. When you have a remote area and you want to electrify it, there are basically three ways. One is grid extension. Okay. The other is if you have like a resource like hydro, then you use the hydro. If not, you use diesel. But this is only if you cannot extend the grid. And then for remote people who really need electricity only for lighting, then you use solar home systems. This is basically the options that you have. And how do you decide this? You do an economic comparison. Energy planners do this, all right? So based on distance, terrain, total load, then you decide whether it should be extended or you have a decentralized system. And then if the communities are concentrated, then you can have a small diesel or something and then have a mini grid. But if not, then you do individual systems. When you talk of individual systems, you're really talking of solar home systems or even batteries. You know, a lot of people, they just get batteries, put lights, then they bring the batteries to the gas station every week. That is how you live life in the Philippines. And how you determine the last part is in terms of whether you have a resource locally available and what is the cost. So this is called the least cost economic comparisons of options, and that is what basically energy planners do. The biggest challenge in off-grid electrification is this. Even when you do your economic analysis and you come up with the least cost solution from your spreadsheet, it doesn't mean the people can afford that solution because people are poor, all right? That's one. So government subsidies are needed, both on the supply side, like subsidizing the diesels, subsidizing the solar home systems, and on the demand side, people cannot afford the tariffs, so the government has to reduce the tariff below the actual generation cost. Okay, and in the Philippines, these subsidies are run by the Missionary Electrification Development Program, funded by contribution in the electric bill of all consumers in the Philippines, called the universal charge. So we're talking of money here, and that is the problem. The unsustainable demand for subsidies in the Philippines for MEDP subsidies. In 2003, you just needed 1.3 billion. 2020, it's 20 billion. And the income, the funding cannot afford that. So it's not really a technology problem. It's a policy problem here. So the approaches that we have helped to organize is one is attract more private sector participation. Why? Because they are generally more efficient. They bring more human resources and capital. Okay, and then rationalize the subsidy system. And while our intention is to shift the burden to the larger consumers. Right now, for example, in places like Palawan, the malls, they get the same subsidy per kilowatt hour than the poor household in the same place. So we are trying to rationalize it by shifting the burden to the larger consumers. And then reducing the operating cost of the diesel systems. And finally, improving the capacity to pay by remote households, and how? By introducing livelihood opportunities. So examples of the studies we did, and one is the simplification of existing policies and regulations. For example, in the Philippines, for the private sector to come in, there are so many things needed: a competitive selection process, power supply agreements, things like that. And we had experts try to simplify this. The second is rationalizing the subsidy system, like I said, okay? And I'm proud of this last part. This is a very difficult task. I had two very good consultants with me. One was from UP, Dr. Laris Cresa, that you may know is a policy member, and the other is Dr. Jeff Ducanes from Ateneo, and they did a very good job, okay? So like what I was saying, right now, the subsidy per kilowatt hour, so in other words, if you are a low consumer, you get this much. If you have a big consumer, which means generally the richer people, then they get most of the subsidies. So what these two consultants have done is they design a system so that the tariffs, the subsidies are shifted to the smallest consumers. The burden of the payment is more on the larger consumers. And they did this with economics and statistical analysis that are very difficult to argue against, and it is now under debates at the Department of Energy. The next thing we have in terms of designing new methodologies and new planning methods refers to the case that diesel is used in most of the off-grid electrification in the Philippines. And of course, nobody likes diesel now because of the emissions, but they are also very costly in terms of the requirement for diesel fuels. You cannot just say, okay, let's get rid of the diesels and let's put solar energy in there. It's not practical. So what we are trying to introduce is hybridization. In other words, instead of 100% diesel, have 20, 30% solar. And why 20? How do you find if there's 20 or 30? You have to do optimization, right? And this is the contribution that we did. We looked at all of the diesel systems in the country, and we optimized how much solar is best so that in the end, you save money for each of these diesel systems. Okay, so we did a hybridization study for diesel engines of over 500 kilowatt capacity, and then diesel plants below 500 kilowatts. And our experts from Germany developed an Excel-based planning tool that was easily used by people in the energy planning departments of the Philippines. Right now, they are using Homer. Homer costs like $120. As you probably know, if you're using it a year subscription. So that was a major contribution. Finally, in terms of improving livelihood opportunities for remote areas, we actually installed demonstration productive uses of renewable energy in remote areas. As you can see here, these were two in Davao, for example, that we used to demonstrate how you can make income. One is changing the manual way of spindling abaca with a solar-powered abaca spindler, right? And the financial analysis that this is good, so people generate income because the product has better quality and you produce more abaca. So this was a winner for the place in Davao. Another place in Davao was demonstrating how you can replace manual dehaling of corn with a dehaler powered by solar energy. Like I said, these were all powered by small water. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not gonna die yet. We have some donuts. Anyway, as you can see, the solar systems we are using here are fairly simple. Solar panels and controls there. And this is the joy of doing this kind of things when you see people. This is really the reward you get. In Pangasinan, we developed a system also for solar and power rice milling. And finally, since I have to talk fast, the last one that I manage from remote at home, but done by local consultants, is a decorticating machine that produces pinya textile fibers from pineapple waste. Okay, and all of this are not just for demonstration. They actually make money for the people here. And this particular one, we had a contract with Vinyatex Philippines. They will buy all of the production of these people. Now, we can only do one of this. Our idea is that people will replicate it. So in combination with all I'm saying, this is the contribution we have tried to make for off-grid electrification in the Philippines. Like this is just to show that it's not just putting equipment in there, but making them sustainable by developing a business operation and by making sure that people take care of the equipment with proper maintenance. Okay, thank you so much. You forgot the instrument.
Is there time for questions?
Later. We
Yeah.
decided to have back-to-back talks. You never disappoint. Thank you very much. The next speaker is Dr. Emmanuel Baha. He is a the next speaker is Dr. Emmanuel Baha. He is a research professor at the Institute of Clinical Epidemiology, the National Institute of Health, UP Manila, with secondary appointment as a clinical professor at the Department of Clinical Epidemiology, College of Medicine, UP Manila. He finished his doctorate in science in environmental health at the Harvard School of Public Health. The research areas he's involved in is environmental epidemiology, air pollution, heavy metals, HIV, gene-environment interaction. His research involves a multifaceted approach, as you will see in his smoking hot topic, prevalence and risk factors of smoking and vaping among nursing students in a private university in Manila, Philippines.
Thank you so much for that introduction. First of all, I want to thank everyone for listening here. I think I'm the only brave soul from Manila. So, I think I'm the only brave but actually, I have a lot of research because in the Philippines, there's a lot of research, but there's not enough researchers. I do air pollution, I do HIV. But this project involves students, high school students, and part of my extension service as a Balik scientist is to help nurture these young students. So right now I'm talking about prevalence and risk factors of smoking and vaping among nursing students in a private university in the Philippines. Next slide. I have no.
I'm sorry. It should.
Okay, I have nothing to declare as a COI, so so what's the motivation of this study? Because there's a lot of smokers.
I don't know what's going on.
Just change it.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So there's a lot of smokers in the Philippines right now. We don't have enough data at the moment. That's why I wanted to look at yeah, okay. So there's not enough data, and there's around 15 million adults currently smoking cigarettes according to DOH, and there's a rapid emerging nicotine and tobacco products such as e-cigarettes that have been associated with health risks. So who emphasizes in their reports that e-cigarettes use is a public health concern. Next slide, please. So according to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, teens are clearly attracted to the marketed all technology of and flavoring seen in vaping devices. Because right now people are marketing e-cigarettes as just a flavor device. Next slide, please. Teens are more likely to use e-cigarettes than cigarettes right now, and then boys are 2 times more in using e-cigarettes. And then what do teens say is in their e-cigarettes? 2 out of 3 say that they're just flavoring. So there's no nicotine, there's no, some of them don't know what's inside, but they just want to smoke it. Some of them think that there's marijuana, and then some of them think that there's nicotine. Next slide, please. So smoking and vaping are prevalent even among nursing students. So right now, university students are among the more vulnerable population in terms of smoking and e-cigarettes. And the role of nurses and other health professionals as counselors, educators, role models, advocates, and leaders is crucial in addressing the global tobacco pandemic. Current literature in the Philippines about nursing students, particularly their use of e-cigarettes and cigarettes, and the surrounding psychosocial factors remain limited in the Philippines. That's why with my high school students, we went and did this study. Next slide. And this is just data. Probably you can skip it. Next slide. So our objective is to determine the prevalence of cigarettes and e-cigarettes use among nursing students in a private university and examine the association between smoking and vaping and the selected social determinants of that. Next slide, please. So this is a cross-sectional study. It was done last year during the pandemic. Also, it's March to April 2020. It's nursing students from a private university in Metro Manila. So participants were asked to answer an online self-assessment questionnaire on social demographic factors, their cigarette use and their e-cigarette use, and their perceived stress scale, and their knowledge on health effects of smoking and attitude towards vaping, health impacts, and the smoking status and vaping status of their families and peers. So we recruited 249 nursing students and they participated in this study. So for our exposure assessment, we looked at perceived stress level. So we assessed this using a global instrument, and then we categorized them as low, moderate, and high based on their scores. Next slide, please. And then for knowledge, we health consequences of direct and secondhand smoking. We assessed them using different scores, and then we categorized them as not deficient and deficient. And then for the health outcome, the cigarette smoking and EC use experience. So participants were either classified as non-smokers and non-vapers, cigarette smokers only, vapers only, and then cigarette smokers and vapers. Next slide. So we did descriptive statistics, and then for the association study, we used a generalized linear model with SWOT distribution, a log length function, and verbose variance. This is a more suitable approach in analyzing cross-sectional data with common outcomes. And then we control for confounding factors, their age, level of income, family income, year level they're in, and of course the different exposure variables that we wanted to look at. So we reported it as an adjusted prevalence ratio with 95 confidence interval as effects estimates for the effect of perceived stress and other factors on vaping and smoking. Next slide, please. So for the results and discussions, So the mean age is like 19 years old. Most of them are females, and then 90% are first years and second years, and around 3 out of 4 had a family income of 50,000 and above. This is a private university, so you expect that. And most of the participants are under moderate stress and had negative attitude towards the health impacts of vaping. So that's nice to hear. And approximately 3 out of 5 students were never smokers or vapers. 1 out of 8 were exclusively vapers. 1 out of 20 were exclusively smokers, and 1 out of 5 were both smokers and vapers. Next slide. So here's a figure of the risk for smoking and or vaping. So students with high perceived stress level had a 47% higher prevalence of cigarette smoking or e-cigarettes vaping than students with low to moderate perceived stress level. And then perceived prevalence of smoking and vaping was 69%, 322%, and 53% higher for students in the second year, third year, and fourth year levels, respectively, compared to first year students. Another interesting thing that we found out that the students who had positive attitude towards the health effects of vaping tend to use e-cigarettes or cigarettes by 92% higher than those compared to participants who had a negative attitude. And then finally, students with at least one family member or peer who smokes or vape had a higher prevalence for smoking and vaping compared to students with family members or peers who have never smoked or never. So this is the discussions. Our estimates of prevalence of never users and of cigarettes and e-cigarettes are 61%, which is very similar to estimates found among nursing and physiotherapy students in Spain and in Korea. And most ever users were dual users have a higher prevalence than exclusive vapers and smokers. And our study found a significant association between stress level and the use of cigarettes or e-cigarettes, which is also in agreement with several studies on nursing and other health professions reported by other researchers. Next slide. So we also found that among students in France, there was a positive relationship between regular smoking and stress level. And our research found that participants in higher levels are more likely to smoke and vape, which is also consistent and in agreement with other studies that describe that smoking is a coping strategy among college students. I guess with the higher level, more major subjects, you tend to smoke. Next slide, please. So this is just looking at the positive health impacts of smoking. So if you feel that vaping is okay, so you tend to vape more or smoke more compared to those who don't feel that it's a positive thing to have smoking or vaping. Next slide, please. So limitations of our study, since this data was collected by self-reporting, biases like nursing students not fully disclosing truthfully information and having the social desirability to be accepted may have affected our estimates, and our results could be in either direction. And of course, our small sample size, limited geographic scope would not be able to generalize it to other students in the Philippines. And then, of course, we have a lot of unmeasured confounding factors that could bias our results, so we can prove that out. And of course, this is a cross-sectional study, so temporal or causal relationship cannot be found. I have another study that looked at a bigger study, but for this study, it's very limited. Next slide, please. So what is the significance? So our prevalence estimates highlight the importance of smoking and vaping control and prevention measures for the use, whether it's school-based or community-based. existing public health interventions for smoking and vaping should be regularly evaluated by the Department of Health. And then health promotion programs and materials, they equip the students with more capability to have a firm ground against peer pressure. So peer pressure really tends to influence peers to smoke or students to smoke. Next slide. So right now I have another study that looks at smoking and then online shift and then mental health among the youth. It's funded by the American Red Cross. We have like 5,000 students, the whole Philippines. So that's I think that's what we need right now. More studies locally in the Philippines that would look at the health effects of smoking. Next slide, please. This is just the highlights that I said. Maybe. Yeah, that's Thank you so much. I'm happy that I'm here. I'd like to thank, next slide, please. I'd like to thank my students who helped me with this study. Of course, my chancellor who paid for my fare, Chancellor Padilla from UP Manila. Without her, I would be here. But it's nice, and it's a nice experience traveling from Manila to here. And with all the COVID, and then I'm the only one wearing a face shield at the airport. And, those are wonderful experiences.
Anyway, you're given, both speakers are given 10 more minutes for question and answer. All right? Go ahead.
It is first. Yes. So, is vaping considered as a status symbol? That's why we vape. And
Yeah.
are the students aware that the health consequences of vaping may be even worse than
They're not.
smoking per se? So they're not using it to quit smoking after.
No.
These are like-
That's why I think the findings in America regarding the flavoring thing, that's why in the Philippines there's a lot of flavors. If you go to a vaping store, they have mango, they have pupo, they have all those flavors that are exciting. That's why I think that's a helpful.
So they are not aware that it is a health problem.
They say it's a cool thing.
Okay.
I mean, that's very ironic because these are nursing students.
Yeah. Yeah. But of course the pressure of like the duties, getting to the duties, that's why it's really hard.
So I appreciated your enumerating the confounding factors that you considered. But what about the fact that you conducted this study during COVID pandemic in the Philippines? Did you ever consider
That's why
that could have affected the stress levels of the students?
That's why, no, but this was during the start of the pandemic.
Okay.
That's why we shifted. It was supposed to be a face-to-face interview with a nice iPad, asking the nursing students to fill up the questionnaire. Because I have this nice experience of if people see a questionnaire in an iPad, they will answer it rather than give them a paper and pencil to answer that.
So that makes
That's
sense.
that's why we shifted to the online thing.
So now, again, I'm startled because your subjects are nursing students. So are you then making formal recommendations to nursing schools in the Philippines to kind of include in their curriculum the proper education on how to cope with students?
Hopefully, we're just waiting for the paper to be published. So we submitted it in the journal. And then we looked at the reverse side of looking at the effect of smoking on the stress of the nursing.
Yes.
So it's the other way around.
I think it's a multiplier effect.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a question. Are vapes regulated in the Philippines FDA?
No.
No. Okay. Are there any questions for Dr. Tirado?
There's a question on the
Wait,
Let's
where
finish
is it?
it first.
by Al.
Oh, okay. Better read it. Okay.
Can you read it for me? online.
For Ernie Torado, good job electrifying the off-grid areas. Where can we see the cost benefit analysis of the solar plus livelihood installations that you did in Davao, Pangasinan? So we can further look for potential supporters and funders for scaling it up. Dr. Torado.
The question is, where can we see the reports on this?
Yeah.
Well, there
You can
are-
also
use the
look at
microphone.
The online audience.
I think Ayala Energy
Yes, thank you for the question.
is doing that.
The reports of these things that I discussed today are available from either the Department of Energy or the European Union delegation in Manila. Okay, they are the owners of the reports. A total of 23 reports were made on these things, and you may want to request that, but I cannot just provide it to anybody. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ernie, I remember about 3 years ago, you talked about solar home systems, how you were able to monetize it based on the competing cost in the household. Cost of kerosene, for instance.
Yeah.
Or cooking. What did you use here?
Yeah, I mean, like solar home systems, in the least cost, economic least cost analysis,
Yes.
that comes last. So a lot depends on what kind of community you have. Is it concentrated? How many households are there? What do they use it for? So in a place where there are like 500 houses and they have a rice mill there, you will not recommend solar home systems. You will recommend something that is big, that can provide larger amounts of power. Solar home systems are for places that are remote. The households are dispersed. You cannot connect them with lights, right? And they only need lighting. For that, the solution everywhere is solar home systems. There's no other. So the question now depends on size. The normal is 50 watts. And how do they pay for it? Those are the questions. The technology and the least cost comparisons are all established.
So how did they pay for it?
How do they pay for it? They have to be subsidized. And this is the problem, right? So for example, in the World Bank managed systems that were installed, about half is subsidized. And then the rest people pay on monthly amortizations of like 100 to 300 pesos per month. Okay. In the analysis, they must pay 300 pesos per month. But then we found out they cannot pay it. So it was lowered to 100, something like that. This is the reality of work. Like
Sir,
this.
are you tied up with Ayala for? Because my classmate is the CEO of Ayala Energy, and I think they're looking at this power.
Now I understand because I've met a few of these Ayala people, but I'm not affiliated with that. The project we did was for the European Union, and we were working directly with the Department of Energy.
Okay. And then there are questions that
Yeah,
come.
so Ernie, two questions, please. So the first one is, to your knowledge, based on the projects that you have already done, how many households benefited from the project? And the second part of the question is, how many more households do you think there are in the Philippines that are remaining off the grid?
Yeah, I can only talk of the part that we did using EU money. And right now, like I said, the target is like 45,000, but only 15,000 have been installed because of COVID, right? It was delayed. The Department of Energy and some other smaller group like Sayala is pointing out, they're doing their own things, but they are like a few hundred or a few thousands. So the World Bank project is the largest that I know. In terms of how many are still unelectrified out there in the remote households that need solar home systems, it's close to 2 million households.
The second question is, the Department of Science and Technology is planning on having the internet available throughout the Philippines, have they at all communicated with you in terms of how to implement that, including those off the grid places?
No, unfortunately, I have not dealt much with the DOST when I was there because the one that is fully in charge is the Department of Energy, right? Anytime you want to install something or put something in there, the DOE must have their hands there, right? So in a way, the DOST is more on the research side of things, not the actual implementation, putting 1,000 things together. This is not really the thing. And DOE also tends to be kind of jealous of what other, you know how it is in the Philippines. So the number one agency for all of this is DOE. Unfortunately, it's not a very strong institution, right? That is one of the regrets I have 5 years in the Philippines because I've worked in many countries and they're kind of weak. So there's not much that can be done.
Okay,
Yeah.
because we have to end it, we have to end the session online, but you can continue talking.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it turned out to be an elective. And I have to leave.
I have requested that the camera be panned to the audience so that they see us. Someone like Giselle actually. The
Oh,
president.
really? I have
They
to
want to
leave.
see us.
Oh, right now? Oh, okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. We wanted to see
Nice
you.
to see you all.
That's so great. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Fantastic.
Guys, I have to leave.
Thank you.
I have a, whatever Zoom. It's a memorial.
Yeah, and don't forget there are parallel sessions actually.
Yeah, they have parallel session. There's three of them.